James here at Hello Saxophone with a new lesson. This is called Saxophone Bebop Articulation, and well, I guess a lot of people are curious about this, how to do it. It's really a style, a technique of phrasing. Which helps to create a very typical jazz or swing or bebop or bluesy sort of saxophone sound that really, especially the saxophone, is very, very famous for. I would say that it's more than just a technique of playing, it's also an attitude. If you play bebop really nice and sweet and like gently, it doesn't really work. Bebop really needs to be like it's a sort of a way of attacking or commanding attention, and it really draws people towards what you're playing. It really commands attention in a way. And when bebop was new, actually, a lot of the parents were hating it because the kids, of course, the young people, loved bebop when it first sort of came out, or I guess it was around for a longer time, but when it really gained broad acceptance. A lot of parents said that, you know, bebop was the devil's music and that people were dancing wildly to this. So that's really the history of it, but it's also something that still is very infused in this music. Whenever you see people really swinging it, it's always with a certain attitude, a certain aggressiveness, maybe a certain sexualness of attacking the notes. So that's also an important ingredient next to the technique, the simple just doing of it. So how does this work? Well, basically it's a very simple basic technique where you're going to accent every first, and then the first, and then after that every second note that you're playing. So if I were to play like an F major scale, for example, in B flat, obviously because it's a tenor, and I do it straight, so without bebop articulation. Now if I bebop articulate the same thing, very recognizable, right? Now what you're doing is you're accenting the first and then every second note, and creating this boom ba boom ba boom ba boom ba. And also in the spacing you're doing things slightly differently, because when you're playing something really straight, the classical way you might say, all the notes are very evenly spaced and evenly played attack wise. But if you're playing bebop, you're really creating this sort of a hoompa sound, I always call it, where you're elongating the notes that you're accenting, and you're slightly shortening the second note, creating this hoompa, 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 where the hoom obviously is the first note that you're accenting, and then the pa is a slightly shorter note. And you're not really playing it softer, you are giving it sort of a kick, but well, I guess that's what it is. It's like hoompa, 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 and that creates the sound. And if you combine that with especially the chromatic scale, or playing, you know, chromatics throughout whatever you're playing, using chromatics, and if you don't know what that is, check out some of my other videos on that. You get this very, you know, famous and known jazz sound of the, you know, that sort of type style things, which jazz is of course very famous for. And the way to practice this is really in your scales and in everything else that you're playing. Try to play things both straight, so the classical way you might say, but also try to bop everything. So when you're practicing your scales across your whole instrument, try to play them straight. But also if you go back to this F scale, for example, just try to practice every day a few times playing it in a bebop style. And keep doing that with everything you're playing. If you're practicing chromatic scales, same thing. Etc., etc. Just play and practice everything in that style, so that when you need it you can just turn it on and it's second nature. Now once you're getting the hang of this and your music is really becoming infused with this bebop feeling and this feeling of swing and the power of this articulation technique, then you can also start applying it in other places and in other ways, because once it really gets into your bones, you can kind of let go of this accenting every other note idea, and it becomes more a feeling. So you can also apply it to something like this, for example. Where actually I'm not accenting every other note, but I'm actually accenting one note and then I'm playing two notes and then I'm accenting the fourth note I'm playing. But because the feeling of this boom pa boom pa boom pa boom pa boom is still standing while I'm playing this way, you still get this bebop feeling in your music. So on the one hand it's a technique, it's just, you know, accenting every other note, but you can also, once you really get the feeling and once you get the idea of the attitude and the way that you're playing this, you can also apply it in other ways. You can also, you know, leave sometimes the other notes out, where you're not actually playing the notes in between, where you're just going. Etc, etc. And you know, if you play that with a good band who's, you know, keeping your rhythm tight, even though you're not really playing the notes that you're not accenting, you're just playing the, you know, the accent notes, it'll still swing, it'll still kind of bop. So keep that in mind where you're doing it. It's not just a technique, it's also exploring this feeling of having fun and attacking the notes and really commanding attention. And that's very much a real part of articulating bebop style. So that's it for this lesson. Hope you learned something, and if you like my lessons, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, of course, and I hope to see you again here at hellosaxophone.com. Ciao!